This video is going to be a film study look at how the Ravens offense was able to get jump-started on the third possession against the Giants on Sunday in the 35-14 win. At the end of the day, the end of the game, the offensive stats looked tremendous, and it was 5 touchdowns in a row on 5 consecutive possessions. The first 7 or 7.5 minutes, however, the Ravens were stuck in neutral. They had the fumble on the first possession after a brilliant kickoff return by Justice Hill, and then we had to punt on our second possession against a team that was obviously overmatched defensively. We were able to get a number of things accomplished across the width and the verticality of the field. The Ravens took off on their third possession, scored 3 consecutive touchdowns to take a 21-7 lead at the half. I want to go over most, if not all, of those plays here because I just think it's interesting that the wide variety of concepts that Todd Monken uses in situations where we're successful. Other times against some of the better defenses where we utilize 5, 6, 7, 8 different concepts, and the efficiency level, the execution of all of them is diminished somewhat because of the quality or the talent of the defense we're going against. Yeah, I do believe that. But when we are operating at our highest level, Todd Monken expects Lamar Jackson and the entire offense to execute a vast array of concepts on a play-by-play basis. And if we can operate at our highest potential, not turn the football over, I think that offers perhaps a 5 to 7% higher ceiling than if our attack was a little bit more singular. On those 3 possessions to close the half, to take a 21-7 lead, the Ravens ran 20 offensive plays, 183 total yards, of course, highlighted by the 2 touchdown passes from Lamar to Rashad Bateman. I did a film study video on him Monday afternoon. If you guys want to check that out, I'll link it up in the description. We'll go through some of the plays here. This is the Ravens' third possession after the big punt return by Desmond King, I think of 22 yards to kind of put us in great position. I want to do a film study video just on this formation. So bunch B. The camera kind of got it zoomed in a little bit late. Now this happens to be 12 personnel because you got Andrews and Likely on the field together. Bunch is to the right-hand side, and then Derrick Henry is to the backside away from the bunch. So you guys know I call this dual read because we're running the zone this way, and then Likely is reading that edge defender just like Lamar is, and in this case loops out in front. Lamar keeps it and follows behind him, hence the name dual read since they're both reading that defender. He's normally assigned to the front side inside linebacker or sometimes the front side safety. Yes, this is the play that Lamar finishes in violent, almost angry fashion by stiff-arming or shoving the defender out of bounds. So here's the read. You can see that Lamar's got his eyes on Thibodeaux, and so does Likely. So you got 2 unblocked players, the outside linebacker, Thibodeaux, and the inside linebacker, 41, who played quite well at times. And those 2 are tasked with defending Lamar and Isaiah Likely. From a formation standpoint, there's really not much that teams can do, other than perhaps force a give read. And I think that teams at times make that decision. This ends up being a 15-yard gain for Lamar, like I said, immediately after Desmond King's 22-yard punt return. So we come right back with a somewhat similar formation, except Likely is wider now. So there's no threat of Likely running across the line here to dual read this outside linebacker because he's too wide. Likely is too far to the opposite side. So from a Ravens fan standpoint, we can look at that and say, all right, I know it's not dual read. It's a great run by Henry, a little bit underrated. It only goes down as a 6-yard gain because he's got to go parallel to the line of scrimmage. So he's on, I call it down sweep. Falele actually played, I think, probably his best game in the sample size that I have seen. Now, there's still 3 reps where when he loses bad. But I thought he played more consistent across the entirety of the game. Still some limitations in athleticism, but you have to give him credit when he does play well. Linderbaum is taking a wide path here and then ends up veering back underneath. That's who Derrick Henry follows. You can see the block that Linderbaum's got here. Falele kicking out the edge defender. I mean, it's all kind of set up for him to do so. I just think it's a nice example of Henry's patience and his ability to recognize, like, every run's not going to be a home run. Sometimes you're going to hit some singles. Sometimes it's a sacrifice bunt. This is a single to me. 6-yard gain on a 1st and 10. Gets us in an advantageous 2nd and 4 position. The entire playbook is open for Monken in this situation. I would like to see this a little bit more. So Henry, Ricard, and a tight end into the boundary. You're talking about really forcing the defense's hand to make sure that they've got not just 3 defenders over there, but the Mike linebacker, who typically lines up to the field, in a position such that he has to defend, he has to be able to respond to the boundary, to a boundary side run. And this is beautiful. We lined up in that manner that I just described. Motion Zay, and then run F counter back the other side. Falele with the kick out, Ricard looping, Henry downhill. I love this run concept, stacked on top of the other one, because of what we have to the boundary, motion in Zay, and then bringing him back to the field. Just a lot of confusion created for the offense, for the defense, excuse me. And this is, look, this little reverse pivot by Lamar, this is straight out of Greg Roman's playbook from 2021. Now, this might be a Harbaugh play. Some of you guys perhaps have listened to me before say I think there's Harbaugh plays that are Jim and John Harbaugh shared concepts. It's a fake to Zay, and then the counter step by Derrick Henry brings it back the other way, 9 yards behind the kick out from Falele, and the pull or the second wrap by Ricard. It's the tight alignment here that kind of makes this possible for Ricard to get there. Edge defender is Burns. I think Falele's slightly slow getting there. Burns isn't able to compress that at all, gets expanded. 9-yard gain downhill to the weak side, away from where Ricard, Andrews, and Henry lined up. I think that's important. Very next play, outside zone. I think it's Rosengarten loses on this play. Here, gets punched in the chest. And so when Henry's trying to take this to the weak side, he's got to cut it back off of that. Everything's stacked up off that left side as well. I shouldn't just single out Rosengarten. There's nowhere to go. We've comboed with Falele and Linderbaum. Linderbaum's moved up to the second level. Falele ends up getting possibly rolling up on somebody or tripping over someone's feet. Henry gets stuffed for no gain on the play. This is an interesting situation for our slide protection here. So slide protection kind of, everyone's stepping in this direction. Henry and Ricard both responsible for the edge defender to our right, the downside of your screen. And Stanley's beat to the inside. But I mentioned this in the reaction video. It's a little bit anomalous to me because he's stepping here to Burns. And he's expecting, in my opinion, Mekari to be stepping with him. But Mekari's got a D tackle to deal with. So whatever their call was there in terms of how they were going to handle it, I think that Stanley believes that he's got someone. So basically, Stanley's got to handle 1.5 gaps, meaning he's got the outside gap, 1, and then half here, whereas Mekari would help him out there, and that's not the way that it works out. That's a simplistic explanation. Probably look for more detailed explanations than I just gave you. It is obviously against Ronnie Stanley, and it's a great play by Brian Burns, who's a ridiculous athlete. Same play from the end zone angle. I'm just explaining how I understand it to occur in such an easy fashion. Stanley maybe overcommits a little bit there when you see it from the end zone angle. He oversteps with his left foot instead of being a little bit more conservative. And then the cool thing is, well, the one thing that's not cool about this is I was hoping that we would get the other end zone angle when we got the film of this play. This is, of course, the 3rd and goal from the 13, the touchdown pass from Lamar to Andrews, who's lined up over here with Likely. Ironically, both tight ends and the running back to the field. So unique for Todd Monken's offense. This throw is, in fact, over the top of Isaiah Simmons. I think there's possibly a mix-up here in how these guys are matching up with this. Simmons hesitates. You'll see it a little bit more from the end zone angle. I believe that Simmons is thinking about taking Likely at first, and then Andrews goes over the top. End zone angle kind of will give you an idea of what I mean. You've got a shell defense here, structure, pre-snap with 2 safeties. Likely and Andrews. I'm talking about these 2 defenders here, how they match up with Likely underneath, and then Andrews actually doesn't make it that much of an in cut, kind of a little bit more vertical, obviously. So I believe that these 2 guys are trying to figure out how to match this up. Simmons steps with Likely, sees his teammate is already covering Likely, and Lamar is tracking all of it, throws it in between the triangle. This one very much reminds me of a throw he made against Arizona in 2019. Now, it was longer, further down the field, and it was at home. It was a 3rd and 17 to Andrews over the middle. of a Tampa 2 structure, and he threw it. Some of you guys probably remember it. He threw it over the top of an inside linebacker, kind of lofted perfectly for Andrews. Also, watch the stutter that Andrews gives here for this defender, and then takes it over the top. So this is really cool stuff down in the red zone with the running back and both tight ends to the field, which is somewhat anomalous out of 12 personnel, if you ask me, from the standpoint of how the rest of the NFL normally operates out of 12 personnel. Where they line up pre-snap is what I mean. We're able to take a 7-0 lead there. I think it was only a 33-yard drive because of Desmond King's punt return. Moving on to the fourth possession here, we're able to get another stop on defense. Play action pass to Andrews. I like the setup with Ricard skipping back into the backfield. Him and Henry, almost kind of San Francisco 49ers-esque, and I mean 49ers from the 80s and 90s, whereby they're splitting their routes to one side or the other. Lamar could kind of choose things, but it also helps out in the middle of the field, kind of clears things up. And what I mean is you got one inside linebacker covering Ricard, other inside linebacker covering this, so complete isolation of, I think it's Belton, the guy who makes a pass defense in the third quarter on a ball that's a little bit underthrown, but Lamar was dealing with pressure, trying to get it to Bateman. In this case, Andrews patented over concept out of 21 personnel. A little bit of a play action, but I mean, come on, split flow. Ricard one direction, Henry in the other. How often is that a run play? Not very often. Great throw by Lamar. Wide open Andrews winning against Belton. He's been on fire lately. Talked about it a couple of weeks ago in a film study video that I did on Andrews. 83, 84% catch percentage. I think it's up to 85.7 or 85.8 now. Nice job here in pass pro. I did think that the Giants were very conservative with their blitzes and didn't really test us. They didn't seem to be really testing us a whole lot in terms of picking up some of those stunts that we struggle with, where a defensive end loops underneath. Maybe we've gotten better at handling it on the right-hand side. In this case, it's a 5-man rush. Lamar hits Andrews for 11 yards. Pretty easy. Gets us to the 41. Henry on a split zone concept, but he takes this downhill. So Ricard is working opposite. Linderbaum getting stood up a little bit. I love the setup. Anything that's got horizontal motion and then the kick out / split zone concept opposite of that. And then Henry can choose. Henry can go downhill, which is bang it. He can bend it back. Now, you're not normally on split zone gonna bounce it out here. Some running backs do that. I just watched a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs film, and he's a guy that does that. Henry can on a particular concept, but normally on split zone, you're going to either bang it downhill or bend it backwards underneath that kick out block by Ricard. False start. This one was weird. Lamar has sent Flowers in motion, and then Linderbaum acts like he's going to snap the ball. Just really weird. He tries to play it off, though. Give him credit for that. Right here, he tries to play it off as if it was normal, and he was turning. Refs didn't fall for it. We get a 5-yard penalty. Multiple guys were moving. That one was obviously on Linderbaum. I love this play. It's a smash-ish concept, if you will. And this sets up Bateman's touchdown later on in this quarter. So Likely has come in motion across and kind of sits down. Bateman, route from the same side where Likely ended up, kind of runs this corner route, this bent corner route. And then from the backside, you've got Flowers potentially underneath. Oftentimes he'll turn and go back in the other direction. I think the read side is the downside. This is important for me because what it means to me is Bateman is now part of the read on this concept. You can see Lamar's eyes here completely. It's a 3 deep, 3 under coverage by the Giants. So here's your 3 under, 3 deep coverage. And why I think it's important is make Bateman part of the read more often. It doesn't mean that Zay and Andrews aren't badass football players having really good seasons, high efficiency rate. Everyone, by the way, is averaging more yards per catch than normal. Bateman's at 17.2. Flowers is higher than last year in a yards per catch standpoint. I believe Andrews is too, but I might be wrong there. But that one's the exact same play concept that we run on Bateman's touchdown a little bit later here that I'll show you. Same play from the end zone angle. Again, Lamar's looking to the left where Bateman and Likely are. That's the read side. Flowers coming back late could possibly be option number 3. This one gets stacked up. It's a loss of 1 for Henry. 11 personnel, ace gun. So motion across, kind of a slow motion. And then Lamar appears to be reading this outside linebacker for the give or the keep. And he could follow behind these two lead blockers. Looks like the correct read to me by Lamar. Henry kind of falls down. There wasn't really much push horizontally or vertically there. Maybe there was more of a running lane that I'm making it sound. This is one of my favorite things. This is a little bit of an evolution for the Ravens offense. I've already covered this play in the Bateman video that I put out Monday. It's 4 to a side. So Hill is slipping out into the flats. You've got Bateman and Flowers to the top side. And also Aguilar is late coming back to that side as well, giving Lamar basically a half-field read. But don't think of that as a criticism. Like, Mahomes and the Chiefs used 4 to a side a ton against our defense last year. It's really, I would say, a flood concept. Hill, Flowers on the out. Aguilar could continue, but he kind of sits this thing down. Bateman has turned the safety around. We know how it ends. It's a 49-yard touchdown. So there's other names for it. I really like the fact that Lamar is able to read Andrews' block and adjust to it. Andrews isn't going to win against a starting caliber edge defender, meaning he's not going to stalemate the guy. It's not going to be here. We're going to lose that matchup. It's just a matter of how long it takes us to lose and then where we lose it. I prefer for the edge defender to get to the inside so that Lamar can push to the outside, threaten the defense with the run or the pass. That's why I called it a semi-roll in my reaction video. I'm quite sure that the Ravens are not referring to this as a semi-roll, but that's the way it looked and turned out. As an aside, it looks like the Steelers game on Saturday is going to be extremely cold at home. So this was a nice practice or warm-up or cool up, I guess, for the Ravens to be able to play in a cold stadium in New York on Sunday. Andrews against the OLB, like I said, I think Lamar has got the option to take this inside if the OLB won to the outside, to the top side. Inside linebacker, secondary force here, putting that defense in conflict with Lamar possibly being able to run to the edge or throw the football like he does. It's a beautiful job by Bateman from a route standpoint. 49-yard touchdown from Lamar. That was the fourth possession. We're up 14-7 here. It's our fifth possession. And this route has rarely been taken by us in previous years. Again, I talked about this one in the Bateman video. I do think we're slightly late on this one, getting it out. Later on in the game, Flowers was open on one, and Lamar hit him a little bit sooner across the field. It's a 2nd and 10. I think I had my information mislabeled there a moment ago. My apologies on the graphic that showed up. So you've got routes from the top side that function as clear-out routes here. Andrews is running kind of like a climb concept, inside linebacker matching it. Corner from the other side has fallen off. So what I mean is, as Bateman runs this route, the corner is not in man. He's going to fall off. He's going to look in for work from the other side. So you can see he's pointing here to release Bateman underneath, and he's helping out with the climb concept from the opposite side. Lamar finds Bateman. Didn't think he had a window to get it to Flowers, kind of at the top of the numbers here, because you've got a second-level defender sitting down. I'm talking about that lane there, the inside linebacker sitting down waiting for it. So Lamar correctly gets it to Bateman. Again, I think it's a 1/10 of a second late getting him the football. I'd like to see him catch the football in stride and then be able to put more pressure on the defense by having moves set up to either go outside, essentially bounce it, bang it, or cut it back. This is Bateman's touchdown. I want to show this one, well, for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's out of bunch. Now it's bunch A. So the running back is not on this side like the dual read. I'm going to look for opportunity. I'm going to look for situations where we're running this pass concept and the back is on the B side, the downside of our screen, basically where I have those two dots illustrating that Justice Hill's feet would be there opposite of Likely and Andrews. So it's bunch A. Same concept that we ran earlier on. Likely's going to motion across into the boundary. And once again, the read side is down here. So Lamar is looking here and I think reading this corner. Flowers setting up to bring this route back across the middle, very similar to the concept that I showed earlier. And because of Andrews' route here, the inside linebacker is carrying. I thought 53 did a nice job trying to carry stuff a handful of times on Sunday. This corner has held up. Why? Because Lamar gave a slight pump fake, number one, very slight, but also because earlier in the game, in the second quarter, Lamar hit Likely on that same route. So it's a setup play, in my opinion. This one almost reminds me of a touchdown that I believe we had against the Bucs in the preseason last year, 2023. I could be wrong. I think it was Josh Johnson in the second quarter. But this is building off of stuff that we've accomplished earlier. So Lamar is clearly looking at Likely right now, and we'll run it back a couple of times so you can see that slight movement that he makes right here. As he did, that held this corner. Corner put his foot in the ground to kind of recover on Likely. Too late. The margin for error extremely small in the NFL. If you're playing defense in 2024, we know that. How many passing yards and big plays we've given up in 2024. But Lamar now, to me, is looking like, well, let me make a large scheme statement about this. The reason why so many people are angry about our offensive line this year is because when Lamar has time like this, he's going to kill you. He's going to eat defenses up with the run, scrambling, with the pass, with pinpoint throws like this one, if we give him time. I think in the offseason there was a lot of people saying, build a wall around Lamar. I know in our Discord that was a phrase or a statement that was out there, and they're not wrong. So, we just won a game 35-14, and some of the guys up front played a little bit better than they have recently, but still people are not wrong for being disappointed and concerned that we haven't built a wall around Lamar, that we haven't put him in situations where this is the still shot that you could take. Because when Lamar has this kind of time and this kind of ability to read things and see it, I feel like he's going to make the right decision the overwhelming majority of the time. The reality is, against the better defenses that we're going to face in the playoffs, and even this Saturday against the Steelers, we're not going to get a clean pocket like that. I think NFL defenses understand it. Many of the analysis or evaluation in the last 2, 3, 4 years about Lamar has really got it wrong, in my opinion. Remember the Sticks Blitz Zero when that showed up by the Dolphins? It was they did that so that to make Lamar make quick decisions. He's not good at it. They did that to make him beat them with the pass. That's not the explanation that I'm willing to settle on. I think there's enough film out there of Lamar in clean pocket situations last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, such that teams recognize, hey, we can't give him time. We can't give him time to make the right decision, because if we do, he's going to operate with a high degree of efficiency, make the right decision in terms of who to throw the football to. And if he can't find anybody, he'll take off and scramble for 6, 8, 10, 12 yards. Anyway, the same dynamic exists. The only difference is I think Todd Monken has brought with him improved passing routes, passing concepts clearly, more balanced threats across the width of the field. We attack to the boundary so much that we force defenses to be honest. And so Ravens fans are not wrong for recognizing all the potential that is there with this offense if we had a stronger interior offensive line. I'm talking about right guard and left guard. This was a positive day to win 35-14. The offense getting 5 touchdowns in a row, averaging 9 yards per play on their third, fourth, and fifth possession. Extremely impressive. Made it look easy. You could tell that we were in control. Didn't mean to digress there in talking about the offensive line, but you can see that when Lamar has opportunity, when there is time for him to read the concepts, he's going to make the right decisions, and those slight little movements aren't available to you. That little pump fake on the touchdown to Bateman, maybe it shouldn't even be called a pump fake, just a shoulder fake. Those things are not available if you're dealing with pressure. So the finer points of the game that some people, not Ravens fans, some people have criticized Lamar for not doing at times, well, you can't get those things done when the offensive line is not giving you time to do so. In this case against the Giants, because of the level of the opponent, they do have a good pass rush over there with Thibodeau, Lawrence, and Brian Burns. I know that they have health issues, so I was pleased with how the interior offensive line played, giving Lamar time and ability to operate, particularly on these 3 possessions. You guys let me know what you think of the film study in the comments section. If you're not aware, likes and comments always drive the engagement and kind of push the video out to larger audiences. So if you want to see my work exposed to larger audiences, number one, or if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy it, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.